Hey guys, welcome to Living the Authentic Life. I'm here with my buddy Matthew Massey, and he is Madame Zéro. Champagne. Oh my God. One of the only things I like as much as fashion is champagne and maybe chocolate. So we were talking about, before we started, when we met, we couldn't really remember, but it was early on, and you were saying before you even had a website, you came over with your champagne, and we were blown away by it, and the fact that it's lower in sugar, and it has a beautiful, empowered woman on the label. I was like, this guy is going to be my buddy. So welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Yeah. So you guys have had this crazy journey. It feels probably long to you because it's from reading the journey that took you to even creating it.
Mm-hmm.
But to me on the outside, it feels like you've just propelled as a rocket into being in so many places. So let's start with, you've won a couple of significant awards. Tell us what those are.
Yeah, so it's been, as you mentioned, it's been a journey. Even award-wise, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
So we came out, submitted for the rodeo wine competition about 2 years ago. We ended up taking a silver medal the last 2 years.
Wow.
Which has been amazing. We're very
Chills.
Grateful,
Yeah.
to have that sort of accolade. And then this past fall, we ended up submitting to Decanter in London, and we took a silver medal with a 93 there. And this is all without zero sugar, competing against the other brands that are, very craft, very beautiful style. So we got a silver there, and then we took a gold at the Sommelier Choice Awards, and that's in Cali. That was in San Francisco, and that was a 94 score. So all that was pretty amazing. So those are, this year, 3 awards for the Blanc de Blanc. And then we also got 3 awards, very similar accolades with the beautiful rosé that we released earlier in the year.
So, I mean, it's hard because oftentimes you're doing the work and you're putting in the effort and you don't get noticed and you have to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
But you were noticed so quickly. And I think the reason why is because you spent so much time on the research, on the meaning, on the purpose. And that's what we do on Living the Authentic Life. I found that there's this similar thread with people I meet who have found a way to come alive and found a way to find a profession that's also a mission, that's also a passion, that also makes the world a better place, and to live that life. And you're doing it. And when I met you that first day, I felt like there was something different. But then when I tasted your champagne, I could taste that there was something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, pursuing a passion is different from pursuing any other type of business. Because as we know, it's there's so much work that goes in on the front end. And what I found early days, through entrepreneurial friends that I have, is that you've got to be involved in every part of the process. So all the steps. So from the front end, it took us about 7 years to create and launch the champagne that's aged 5 years. So on the front end, putting in all that effort, there's been a lot of challenges that we've had along the way. And then that led up to actually meeting you and launching in the market. Meeting you when we didn't have a website yet 2 years ago. So it's been, it's been a passionate journey all the way. And it's been a very, very amazing journey, a lot of chapters. But I think with your passion, if you're doing something that you truly enjoy, you truly love, I think that's what really gets you through some of these chapters that can be quite daunting and very, very hard to get through.
Daunting is the word. Okay, so I just had a class reunion or a reunion with girlfriends, and we went back to Texas A&M. One of my friends lives in New York, moved there in 88, had not been back to College Station since 1988. And for whatever reason, the 10 girls, we all, and ironically, I think 5 or 6 of us are still working full time, like really intense in our careers. We're like, what was your first job? What was your worst job? What was the ickiest job you did? And I love that you started working as, was it a busboy or as a server, or and then you evolved through the restaurant business, and you had a mentor that kind of brought you up. And mine was actually working, and mine was kind of a princess problem, but I was living in Vail in Beaver Creek with my family, but I wanted to get a job, and I worked for Vail Associates, and they were doing a lot of construction. It was 1987, and I was responsible for setting up all the food service for the construction workers. So I'd have to bring the bleach buckets out and clean all the tables and set everything up and lift it all. And I got in good shape. But one morning I reached my hand in the bleach bucket and there was a dead rat in it that I touched, and I was like, I can't believe this is my life. But I'm in Vail, Colorado, so maybe I'm okay. But I think it's humbling to know that we lead these glamorous lives, but we started from the core, and we still are sticking our hand in a bleach bucket. Doing that work. So tell us from your beginning to how you even ended up being the owner of a champagne brand that's highly successful around the world. Wow.
So it all started off with Sandra Bullock in a Bentley.
Okay, that's not lame. That's
but we're gonna take it back. So you know, your bleach bucket story is a great one. So I started out, there's a restaurant in Galveston. You know, being from Galveston, I was actually from the West End. We didn't have air conditioning until I was 13. So I don't know how my sister dealt with it. Like with the humidity, the hair, I just think about it now. And because she's a couple years older, so she was about 15 when we finally get AC. But we roughed it. You know, we lived on the West End, but I grew up with a lot of love, just not a lot of money. And, you know, it was a very... I was a beach baby. It was very much like a beach life that I lived growing up. And when I hit about 15, I figured out that there was a very specific BMW that I had to have, and I wanted a new one as well. So my mom gave me a crisp white shirt, and she said, look, you know, there's Guido's. It's a great restaurant on the seawall. She was like, you know, go for it. And I started out making stuffed shrimp in the back, expediting food, you know, running food to tables. And, you know, I worked with a lot of characters having to stuff shrimp. And, you know, it's been, you know, that chapter was interesting. And I learned a lot about that industry, but I also learned that with my passion for cars, that I needed to do something else. So
you're like, this is not going to get me to that.
No, not at all. And I don't know if I have to do this to get the BMW. I don't know that I want to do this. So at 18, I was able to secure my dream job at the time, which was valet parking, San Luis Hotel. I was about 3 months into this glamorous career. It was amazing too, because I was valeting everything you can imagine.
That's epically smart. I never thought of that. Then you get to drive all the cool cars.
Yeah, you get to experience them, and you know, and I got to test drive my BMW at the similar to what I wanted. I was like, yes, this is the car I really want. And yes, that all these Ferraris that I'm driving, that's the car that I need eventually. Yeah. But it was an amazing experience until about 3 months in, and it was amazing. It continued to be amazing, but Sandra Bullock came in, and it was my rotation to valet the car, take the luggage up. So this was like the moment, right? So valet the car, take the luggage up, and then get to the room, and they say, look, we want to go downtown. Is there any way you can help make that happen? And I immediately thought about the black and chrome Bentley that we had out front that I'd been salivating on, that was the SLH car, the San Luis Hotel house vehicle. And the town car that we typically took people in wasn't really going to be sufficient for Sandra, of course. So I did what was appropriate that night. And she had a wig. I took Sandra. She called me about 1:30. Matthew, come pick me up. So I went and picked her up, took her back. No incident, with the exception of her having a hell of a good time that night. Yes! It was a Sandra night, let the hair down. And Monday when I come in, they say, HR needs to see you.
Oh, no.
And of course, like me being all about service, you know, I knew that it was a compliment. It's got to be, right?
Like, oh, they want to tell me I did a great job.
Exactly. Like, I don't know. Maybe they left like an extra tip. Who knows what HR, it's got to be good. So I go down there. They firstly say, look, you know, you took that guest out, right? And I agreed to it. And they said, well, do you know you didn't have insurance on that car? And I didn't even own the shirt on my back at the time, you know? So I was like, oh, that's not good. Oh, well, go ahead and add me to the insurance, right? And then we'll be covered for the next trip. No, that's not really how this works. So we end up going, I end up getting into the discussion about, oh, a manager should have approved it. So short story is the next week, even though they said they put me on probation, I concluded that I was going to get let go from this job, which I did get let go. But in the meantime, I went ahead and got a new job going back in the restaurants. Went to this really, really cute little Italian restaurant called Luigi's on the Strand, 24th and Strand. A lot of people will remember that location, that place. It was a beautiful little place that I started at. But
it was iconic.
Yeah, it was.
I feel like I've been there. Yeah.
It was in an old bank building. It was really cool. They had tables in a vault. It was beautiful.
Wow,
Very well done. Yeah, and from there, you know, that's where I started off. My first table ordered a bottle of wine. I had no clue how to open the bottle, and I was extremely intimidated with wine. I didn't know anything about it. It was the most foreign thing that I'd ever witnessed, and they explained to me, Luigi in particular, he said, look, Matthew, if you want to make money, if you want to buy that BMW, like you told me you're working toward, he said, because his son had the same car that I wanted, the same color. And we always talked about cars. He said, look,
about manifesting. Like you had it there in front of you every day.
I did. It was cool. Even in high school, we did, we started to look at, really start looking at like what we wanted. We manifested. I had one class where we did a lot of manifesting, and that's where that car really resonated. So it really drove me to learn wine. And that's the beauty of manifesting and really setting your goals high. It drove me to learning about all the wines. Luigi had the servers really take me under their wing because they were all much older than me. Mm-hmm. And that's where I learned Italian wine. Shifting that to Houston, I learned all about old world wine from France to Spain, and then also the new world wine. Working at Sullivan's is my first restaurant as I moved up here to go to college. And then from there, my best friend was studying for his master's sommelier when we were about 21. And I mean, we basically learned all we could, and, you know, I drank the rest. And we tried a lot of great wine. And I said, look, dude, how are we going to master wine? How are you going to master wine when we've never even been to Europe? We never got to travel. We didn't grow up with money. You know, we never saw really anywhere outside of Texas. Mm-hmm. So that was the point where I got my degree in business to focus in on wine distribution.
You finished pretty well. I think you said magna cum laude?
Mm-hmm. At U of H.
I mean,
yeah.
You put the work in. You put the hours in.
Mm-hmm.
And you were working.
Yeah. And
you were manifesting, and you were probably having fun.
Oh, absolutely. And absolutely. And, you know,
we were talking about that before, too. That balance. It's important, especially when you're representing a brand that's about celebrating.
Sure.
That you know how to celebrate.
Absolutely.
And you know what it means.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Keep going.
So with the best friend, the master sommelier, going through that process as he was learning, we concluded that we were going to have to get out of the restaurant industry to really get the vacation, to be able to do the traveling, to make the money. Yeah. I decided, though, after, you know, really looking at wine distribution, it was going to pay less than the restaurant industry, and I was going to work more hours.
Yeah.
So I was like, this isn't really making
the car thing.
This kind of
further away.
Chasing this passion and living this dream. I think that I'm just going to get burned out. So, and you don't want to burn out on a passion. It's similar to someone who, you know, loves playing the guitar, but, you know, they can't really make the right amount of money. They can't get any sort of balance playing that guitar. Sometimes you got to just kind of put it up and play it on the side. And that's why I decided to get into oil and gas. Did international business for 18 years. And everywhere I went, I focused on the terroirs of the wine world, from South Africa to Italy, which that great friend has a little place in Piedmonte there. You know, it's beautiful, really close to the town of Alba. Amazing place in the heart of wine country. Truffle country all the way.
Alba,
so it's a white truffle country, black truffle country, exactly where they're at.
I do have to stop you. What is that word? Terrors? Is that
terroir?
Terroir, what is that?
So there's no direct French to English translation, but it's similar to terrain. So terroir is like, it's the place. It's like, it really goes down to the ground, the grapes, the soil. It's like the place. So terroir, like with our champagne, the terroir
like the
is...
hectare? Like the...
Yeah, you could say hectare. Hectare's like, essentially...
amount, like...
Hectare's it's like the quantified basis, but terroir is it's a French term, so it would be it's like the place in terms of the village, and it's very specific to the village. So terroir, like for instance with our champagne, it's from our plots are in a little terroir called in a village called Vertu, a very iconic place.
Okay.
But terroir is essentially there's no true translation, but it's like terrain is probably the
that
most
makes
direct.
sense to me.
Yeah.
And
that's how I think about it.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that, because it is how deep you went with the meaning and where you chose to have it. All that has so much purpose in defining what you created.
Absolutely.
It isn't an accident. And these other respected, known, can we use the word Veuve or not?
Sure. You can use any of the big Mason large brands. Yeah.
But they're using from all these different places, and you're so about where it's from. And I think I'm from Italian descent, and I notice it, and even too with us being Texans, right? Instead of we're Texans more than we're even Americans, and you were Sicilian even more than you were Italian.
Yeah.
So I feel like it matters in that group of people what terroir you're from, what area you take it. It has more meaning than people think.
Absolutely, it very much so, and it's very guarded as well from not just where you're from, but even where your grapes are from, or specific with our champagne. And that's why I set out. There's 319 villages in Champagne. The likes of a Veuve, a Moët, the large houses will blend up to 100. So you don't really know what's in the bottle. There's a lot of blending. So essentially I set out with the business I was doing in France, going back about, let's say now it's probably been 10 to 12 years, really trying to understand the singularity of the different villages and why there's so much blending, why the sugar is added. Got about 3 years into this journey, and I started to develop a very, very well technical understanding of the different terroirs, the different styles, the different characteristics. And I didn't believe there's anything with an exceptional cost price ratio that was absolutely delicious. And then me being very fitness focused, and into living a balanced lifestyle, I don't think you should be punished for having that, let's just call it a third glass or a fourth glass. I don't think sugar is needed in champagne. That was one of my conclusions, is why are we covering up imperfections in the wine with sugar? And it took about 3 years, and that's where I decided to partner with a grower that's 8 generations in and grows this beautiful Chardonnay. We focus in on 47-year-old vines, transparency with everything that we do. We're aging 5 full years. With COVID, we got to 4. We decided to wait a whole year because my friends in the restaurant industry, the Psalms, they said, look, we can't even visit with you right now. So we parked everything in France. Aging champagne an extra year is never a bad thing. So just more beautifully balanced. So we went from 4 years to 5. And when we came into the market, that exceptional quality where we, as you mentioned earlier, we took the rodeo competition, the decanter, and that was really the drive, was to create something special.
I have a hard time remembering my thoughts, and I'm so excited. First of all, the rodeo is not just Houston. It is actually a very respected, internationally respected place for wines, champagnes to be. So even though it's here in Houston, don't think it's just a passing thing. It has so much meaning. But I want to go back to what you said before, because about the cost and about the cost relation, because being in our business of pre-owned luxury, we understand that there's the aspirational buyer, and then there's the buyer that made it and wants to have things, that wants to buy at a value. Yeah. They might have a bunch in the bank, but they want to buy at a value, like a pre-owned car.
Sure.
So it is a thought. You look at a menu and you're going to say, oh, where do these prices fall? So where do your prices fall in relation to these other champagnes? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, so our goal was to be in line with existing non-vintage champagne, the likes of, even a brand like a Veuve, for instance. Like we really wanted to be in line with them, where we would be able to partner with restaurants by the glass. We're in about 17 in Houston by the glass, about 50 in total, quite a few in Dallas as well. But the placement is very important for by the glass to make sure that you get the introductions
Yes.
continually going and flowing, and that's
And people
essentially what we
asking
did.
for it by
Yeah.
brand,
Yeah,
as opposed to, yes, and not even looking at a menu, but saying, do you have
Yeah.
Tito's? Do you have Casamigos? Do you have Madame Zero? Like
Yeah.
that known.
absolutely.
And then another thing that I feel like is so different. So I feel like I grew up with a lot of opportunities for my family, but I couldn't spend money on fashion. That was not where my dad wanted. So that was my goal, was to be able to spend money on fashion. But it was a different life then too. We weren't opening champagne weekly, monthly, even annually. It wasn't. Now it's like should I go home after work? Should we open a bottle? It's a different, life has evolved so much. And what people's perception is too of champagne and how often they drink it.
That's a great point.
And how we think of it. Because it used to be for graduation. And now it's like, it's my requested thing I drink instead of wine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the category too.
Sure.
Is it grown? What happened during COVID? Like, tell us a little bit about that part of the journey.
Absolutely. So I think it's interesting that you mentioned champagne in that light, because let's go real quick though. Take a step to the side. Think about tequila though. When you think about tequila, you think about growing up. We think specifically about tequila. You should just be something you took a shot of,
right?
And then you had a really it ended up being a really wild night, right?
Yes. And now it's like my low sugar go-to.
For your old fashioned or your ranch water, or you drink it neat, it's a sipping tequila. So our palates have evolved, but one of the key reasons they've evolved is because of quality. With the tequila, we see it elevated. We're not drinking Cuervo. Like, we don't go out and ask for Cuervo. No one does. It's hard to even find it these days. Even Patron is mass produced. We don't really drink Patron often, even though it's a solid brand, and they established tequila, so we have to give them credit. It's similar with the big brands that we're familiar with, that like the Yellow Label you mentioned earlier. There's a lot of other champagnes that have had the same sort of impact. Or you have American Sparkling that really put a bad taste in everyone's mouth on New Year's Eve, where we popped that bottle, maybe we even drink out of the bottle. We had a fun night, and then we woke up the next day paying for it.
Horrible hangover from champagne. Same thing with tequila. Whereas now those are like, when you can drink yours, or you drink, you don't wake up with that hangover because you're not drinking bad stuff.
Absolutely.
And it's pure. And I mean, so much of our branding too is about authenticity. The world is wanting to be transparent.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Foods, even brands on how they're making bags, or where they're being made, what country, by whom, all that. And it is all of our packaging. I never remember as a kid looking at packaging or worrying about what contents were in it. And now we're really able to do that. So I think it's interesting that you were able to bring two things, because you don't think of drinking and being healthy unless it's red wine, because for whatever reason they told us that was okay. And we believed them.
It better be a dry red wine or we're going to pay for it. That's for sure.
So let's talk about that authenticity more and dive into those mechanics, because I was really surprised to learn some of those things, because we were, for whatever reason, we believed Veuve was great, but isn't that great, is it? I mean,
So-
I don't want to offend.
So with traditional champagne, they're adding in sugar to cover up imperfections in the base
Yeah.
wine. So when you start out with exceptional quality fruit, when you're only growing it in this one little iconic place where we have 47-year-old vines, that aging just gives us this balance where we don't need the sugar. So if you were to remove the sugar from something like a Veuve or a Moet, which can be, you know, upwards of 15 grams per liter, 12 grams a bottle ish, and then the residual sugar is going to be higher because they age 12 months first 5 years. Your overall flavor profile, like if you let that champagne lose the bubbles, it's not going to drink. It's not going to be as palatable. And ultimately, getting away from the sugars makes the champagnes actually it has aromatics like a white wine, more so. So when you smell our champagne in a white wine glass, it's got honey and this beautiful ripe fig and white flower. So it's so great when it comes to accompanying food. So you're seeing this transition where champagne essentially is the new white wine with a little bit of texture, right? Because of the bubbles and, you know, white wine isn't that sexy when you fall in love with champagne. I will say. Yeah.
I never order white wine for whatever reason. It gives me a headache, or red doesn't, and champagne doesn't. So I don't know what the difference is. It could be psychological because I don't want to drink white wine. I don't know. But everybody has to figure out what works for them.
Absolutely.
So you started in the market with, tell us how, like, what you decided to start with and how you've grown from that. Because I feel like some people hesitate. They feel like when they come out with a brand, they have to have all these things working. But I remember even from being in the marble and granite industry, I worked there with my family business for 22 years. There was a supplier in town, and all they had was green marble and 2 other colors of a limestone, and that's all they sold. But they did it really well. And I'm glad that you felt comfortable doing that. Were you kind of hesitant? I can't just offer one thing. Or did you know that, like, you have to build the path?
That's such a great question. I don't think anyone really thinks of that now that we have 3. They just think that's kind of how we started, or they forget the past. So it's so relevant. So I knew 100%, probably 200%. I was all in, and this wasn't from anything that anyone told me. I knew that we had to really carve our niche space in the market with no confusion of multiple products, multiple labels. We had to go all in on one for all of 12 months. Like all in with one.
Chills. That is such a smart marketing mind, because people do get confused.
Everyone
You need to see everything. What do they say? They have to see it 10 or 12 times to make a decision, to feel like it's comfortable. Even that's true with politicians. We just had an election. One guy was telling me, yeah, I just need to have name recognition to have somebody vote for me sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's, oh, yeah, I had that at a party and I had fun, or I tried that and I liked it. And it is different. The bottle's different.
Absolutely. I mean,
you invested in that. You spent money on even the, I think I have one over here because I loved even the cage.
The muesli cap, the cage.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's always on the details, I say. You know, it really is.
Oh, yeah. Look at this sassy, fabulous woman. I want to be her friend. I want to be at a party with her. Like, she's got on this, it's, I don't know, cat eye. It just is so, she seems like she's in charge of her life and she makes good decisions. And she'd be a good friend to me. And I know she's fashionable.
So the reason we made her, and it was because it's a modern Madame. And when you think about our champagne, it's a modern style, extended aging, the ultimately 0.3 grams of sugar, the ultra low sugar. And it's all derivative of the quality and the style. So Veuve, for instance, has the iconic Madame that could be my grandmother. And, you know, that's a very traditional style of champagne, and there's nothing wrong with it in any way. But our style, though, our brand, we had to focus in on a very modern package and a modern Madame.
And I love that you kind of put this over her eyes. It just occurred to me, because she could be my age or she could be Danette's age, and she could be any age with any woman. And I think that that's meaningful too, because we don't want to be defined by our age.
Exactly. It's anyone who's selective with what they consume. That's why I named Madame Zero Madame Zero. It's about the Madame. It's about my mother and my sister, the two strong women in my life that really help shape me. And whenever they're selective with what they enjoy, with what they consume, that's what really led me back to the Madame not really having any face, but her having the mask, because it's being selective at any age, regardless of ethnicity. There's anyone that consumes Madame Zero is a Madame.
Oh, I like that. So, all right, I interrupted you. So you came out with, what do you call the first?
So we came out with the initial release, the Blanc de Blanc, 5-year aged, and ultimately 0.3 grams of sugar. It's the one we talked about earlier that has won the awards. But this is the quintessential classic release. For anyone that likes a traditional champagne, this is just a beautiful, beautiful, balanced champagne. A lot of rich, ripe citrus and lemon. It's just very beautiful. But it's more of a classic style, though. And then we launched our rosé. After about 15 months in the market, we came in with the extra age rosé. And this guy, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's an evolution of the Blanc de Blanc. So it's only 10% Pinot Noir.
I did dress purple today.
Yeah, you nailed it. Love it. Perfect.
And I bought this blouse in Saint-Tropez. It's by a French designer. So see, we're completely on brand.
Beautiful. French on French. So yeah, we waited.
I do like pink. Danette can hold that with her pink hair. and then your most recent.
And then our baby here, the Mille, which Mille.
I have chills. The packaging, every part of it, the gold.
So yeah, we only do 1,000 of these, and it's the Tête de Cuvée, the first and freshest press. So the beauty here is everyone that loved the Blanc de Blanc has had to enjoy the rosé and experience it, and they love that. This is the grandest release to date. So with those 47-year-old vines, 9-year aged, it's got notes of lychee and fresh peach, apricot. We get a little bit of white raspberry that's beautiful. So 15% Pinot Noir, 85% Chardonnay. This is the ultimate expression of the little Vertu village where we grow the fruit. So this guy's very special, and our process starts off with hand-picking the fruit. So this package is all done by hand. You'll notice it's not perfect, but it was all applied by hand. So the process starts by hand, it finishes by hand. And it's just we believe, a beautiful, beautiful expression of champagne.
And something you would keep, like as a keepsake. So tell us the price point of this.
So this one's $225. We still have a pre-sale going, and it's $205 on pre-sale with the Madame stopper there in the gift box.
Okay. Well, we have to get a couple of those. And it's it's great for gifting for holiday, for that hard person to buy for on your list.
And who's not going to love champagne?
I know, and this presentation
especially beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like this is something that you could, even after you drink it. So how many years does champagne last? Like, some wines are better later. Tell us about, because I didn't realize the 4 to 5 year thing. Tell us about that. So
traditional champagne, even if you had like a bottle of our non-vintage, I would recommend you can hold that for a couple of years. I would say, like, store it properly in a wine cellar and in the mid 50s, and do your quarter turn every quarter, and that'll be good for, I would say, 2 to 5 years. But to be honest, it's ready to drink right now. There's no reason to really age that. Yeah. Vintage champagne, that's a different story. Vintage champagne, you can age it. It's only going to get more layered and more beautiful, particularly being the Tête de Cuvée, the first and freshest press. The expression and the layers are just going to continue to evolve. So you'll get notes that you've never imagined with a champagne. You could have a Blanc de Blanc that 10 years in gets notes of strawberry, and you start getting banana. You get exotic flavors. Like I mentioned lychee earlier, which is exotic, white raspberry. These are really, really beautiful, subtle notes that you're going to get. So you can age this guy, you could age it up to 20 years and beyond. It's got a special cork that will handle the aging very well. And so vintage champagne, hold it. If you buy Dom, hold it for 10 years and then tell me how it is. Don't drink it right now. It's not really,
Interesting.
it's not really made to be drank right now. It really needs 10 years. This champagne, delicious right now, but in 5 years, 10 years, 15, it's going to be exceptional.
And you're planning to do it every year, have a release.
Yeah.
Okay. So we went to Schramsberg, the American version, I guess, sparkling wine of in California, and they have it in the caves. Do you store yours in? I don't know why they created caves instead of. Well,
yeah. So
talk a little bit about the different journeys.
Yeah, it's pretty brilliant the way, going back. I'm talking about way back with wine. It's always been stored in caves. That natural temperature, not in Texas, but when you start thinking about like in France, for instance, our cave's about 12 meters down. So we're looking at close to 40 feet below the surface. And the temperature, it hovers in that very beautiful space, in the 50s. So ultimately, we're cellaring the non-vintage for 5 years, 9 years on the vintage underground. So it's got that really cool natural temperature that we're able to sustain. So it's the same with Schramsberg in California with the caves and such. Yeah.
And so tell him about the guy's job. What's his name? The turner.
Oh, the Riddler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you know this? There's literally a guy that turns. You were mentioning turning it every quarter. Tell people this. I was amazed.
So with traditional champagne wild method, which is what it's called, the champagne wild method, you get to the point where the juice is actually murky at the end of the aging process in the bottle, and you have a layer of yeast at the bottom, and that yeast needs to come out or the champagne's going to be very murky. So for several weeks, you're doing a quarter turn of the bottle to where eventually, and you're tilting to where eventually all of the sediment is in the neck or the yeast. And the yeast is a byproduct, essentially of the sugar that's eaten alcohol. So ultimately you end up with that yeast, and then you end up freezing the neck of the bottle. You freeze it, you upend it. It's like a Coke bottle cap that you pop off, and that frozen sediment shoots out. And then that's when you traditionally would add in your sugar, you would add in your reserve wine, it's basically like finishing the champagne, and then you add that beautiful little Madame cap on the top. So that's part of the process, and that is done about 6 months before we release any of our champagnes into the market. And it's perfectly balanced with that finishing process.
Crazy. And that with all the technology, we haven't replaced the Riddler, is that it?
It really just depends, the Riddler, yeah. It really just depends on how big the house is or if they have the equipment, because there's things that we know about now that 100 plus years ago we weren't thinking about, like carpal tunnel, and so we're trying to get away from that.
That would be a thing that person would have risk
issues. We've actually got in Champagne we've tried to get away from doing it all by hand. Just because it's so cumbersome, and there's equipment, there's racks that really help with the process of basically making that shift. Yeah, absolutely.
So interesting. Okay, what have we not talked about? Is there anything else you want to share? Are there some big events coming up? Are you collaborating with certain restaurants that people should know about? Are there more launch parties that you're doing?
So right now, I think holistically speaking, across Texas, you're going to start seeing us a lot more. We just moved into Fredericksburg with a really beautiful little establishment called Six Twist that feature all of our champagnes, including the Grand Vintage, and even Sidebar down in McAllen's a very beautiful concept. They brought on all 3 champagnes, and we did a really nice launch event with them, and we're going to be doing a lot more in Dallas, greater DFW, from South Lake to Plano and Frisco. We've got some really strong clients throughout DFW, which we're really excited about. So I'll be spending more time there. We'll be growing there. And then we're very grateful. We have some amazing partners here in Houston. Hotel Grand Duca, we're doing a white truffle dinner with them December 14th, which I can't wait to enjoy this dinner. The pairing that Chef Maurizio has is just exceptional, with not only from the food, but to the champagne. We're going to incorporate a little bit of red wine as well. That is December 14th.
Oh, wow.
And it's only for about 30 people. It's in Alba, but it's going to be exceptional. We have a collaboration with La Jardiniere, which is, exceptional French. We're going to be working with them very closely for a
true French company too. Letting
true
you
French.
in.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Amazing.
And that's for the duration of December. We're working on it's basically a pairing that we're doing with them with essentially all 3 champagnes. So those are a couple of the really fun things we have upcoming. We have a Grand Vintage launch party just a week ago. So we'd love to keep y'all updated on any of those future launch events. And you guys can sign up. Yeah, MadameZero.com. And we can include all the links, but you can sign up there and we'll keep you in the loop with really everything that we're going to be up to there.
I don't think I ever signed up. So I actually go way back with the Borlingis from the Grand Duca, but we did the stonework with my family.
Wow.
There years ago in the Montebello and Villa d'Este. And they're so authentically Italian, and she is actually a real Contessa. I chose to be a Contessa, but she was given the Contessa name. And she said she had to ask her brother to use the crest because women don't get the family crest in Italy, just the men. So anyway, I have great respect from everything that they do at the Grand Duca and how authentically they do it. So that Alba truffle dinner sounds pretty amazing because we are truffle lovers. We might
it's going to be amazing.
Try to figure out how to do that. Well, oh my God, learned so much about you. I'm really amazed at how you were able. There's a term, and I emailed you about it, called ikigai, and it's when you figure out how to live a life of purpose.
Yeah.
And you figure out what you're passionate about, what you can make money doing, what you can do to make the world a better place, and what people really want. And I feel like we were chatting before, like what's happened to me in my life in the last few weeks. I've had a friend that committed suicide. I lost my cousin who had a lifetime of mental retardation and challenges health-wise. I've had some great parties and events with friends and a class reunion with my sorority sisters, and all this stuff just gives you such a look at life, that life changes at any moment.
Yeah.
That life is precious, that there's mental health issues, there's physical health issues, and we have to celebrate the moments. We have to choose to slow down enough to be with the people that mean the most to us. And I think I really wanted to host you before the holidays. I feel like just hearing a bottle of champagne pop, like saying those words, give me chills. It changes the feeling in a room. It makes people feel connection.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you can find something to celebrate. And even in our darkest days, we can still find joy and something to champion. So I think this is a great way to do it. And I'm just so happy we could share this with everyone before the holidays. They are hard times for a lot of people to get back together with family. And there's certainly triggering moments.
Definitely.
But it's always better with a little champagne, but just not too much, because then we might all say what we regret the next day. Been there, done that too.
But as I say, good days and bad days should all finish with a glass of champagne.
Amen to that. All right.
But I think that, going back to your point though, around passion and, really thinking about your purpose and thinking about how you can give back, I think it's really important that, I know there's people out there, people listening that, you're still looking for that passion, or you're looking to deploy something where you can actually make money, because, you can try to give back, but you can't give back until you have something to give back. And, I think it's really, really unique and quite beautiful with launching Madame, that early days I was thinking specifically about, well, how are we going to give back? It's all champagne and giggles and eyes sparkling when the bottles popped and open. But, we've got to have an impact in the community. And I had no clue. I was actually kind of overwhelmed with it, to be honest, because I was like, I don't even know where to start with a nonprofit. I don't know anyone with nonprofits 2 years ago. And it's been really amazing though, you know, because once you find your purpose and your passion, you end up meeting people and connecting with people that are equally as passionate about their purpose, even if it's a nonprofit purpose and maybe that's all they do is philanthropy, or if they're more business minded and business focused. And it's just been really amazing because we've, you know, connecting with you and connecting with others that are trying to give back, like the event we did earlier in the year.
Yeah.
You know, we
with
had
Texas Forensic Nurses, and that day you said that you had more sales at that event, and you were able to give back so significantly. You gave back, I think, $2,000, which was incredible. And you met so many new people that were really passionate about what you're doing. So I feel that, like, when there's energy, when people come alive, when you do what you love, when you receive what you put out, people feel it and they want to be with like-minded people, and to get good things happen.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful because everybody, I mean, daily we're asked for something for free.
Yeah.
Daily somebody wants us to give them a bag. My favorite was somebody asked me for a Birkin for a charity that had never shopped here. And I love charity, but I've never given anybody a Birkin for charity because we have to run our businesses and take care of our people too.
Absolutely.
So it's a balancing act.
Absolutely, it really is. But I just think that purpose, you know, once you find that purpose, the like-minded people, it's just amazing how I manifested like some of the nonprofits, and then we ended up, you know, having that event we were able to support, and then like tonight we're doing Iron Sommelier with Periwinkle.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and you know we work with Sky High, and you know we had an amazing event.
With cancer. Incredible.
And then Arts of Healing, we did a really beautiful gala. With Lori and Kristen Rajaman. And it's just beautiful, you know, like being able to partner with like-minded people that are they're very passionate with their purpose as well. And one of the other cool things is we all love champagne.
Yeah. And we all love to have a little fun.
Absolutely. We love to have some great fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. Loved it. You are living the authentic life. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Hope you have a fabulous celebration ahead with some Madame Zéro.